Well, as a welcome, this is my first SkyDogCon, and so I appreciate being able to attend and for you guys listening. And so I know most of you are probably thinking, okay, you are being manipulated. Some people in this room are probably like, yeah, I get it. My way of finding this out, being the deeply paranoid person that I am, I thought to myself, I'm probably being manipulated, but I tend to trust people a good bit. And so the way that I found this out was from an unlikely source. So with that, we'll jump ahead a little bit and we'll go into a cautionary tale. As you guys can tell from this slide that I have so, expertly made, a cautionary tale. So this is the story of how I got played by a 4-year-old. And when I say played, I mean completely and utterly tricked, manipulated 100%, did not figure it out until 30 minutes later when she finally dropped the act. This is my daughter. She was a bit congested, the weather's changed. So to give you guys some context, this happened a week ago. So she's getting better, which is actually the point of this talk. What happened was, she's a little congested. She goes into, I don't want to get up. She's kind of tired because she fought us going to sleep. Anybody who has kids in the audience, you'll understand this. When they're tiny, they fight you. They don't want to go to sleep. They're kind of like us. They're insomniacs. So she had fought us. She was a little tired, but she had this congestion. She had a little bit of hoarseness in her voice. And so we're debating, me and my wife in front of her, which is the first mistake. You never talk about things that you're going to do in front of the kid. Debating whether she should go to daycare that day. My daughter picks up on this. And then we get downstairs, and I'm looking at her, and she's kind of got this look in her eyes, and it's not like overacted. It's just, okay, let's go to school. And I'm like, Lena, how do you feel? She's like, I feel okay. Okay. And then I look at her a little bit, and she kind of got, a little bit around the eyes, and I was like, all right, we're going to stay home today. I'll figure out my meetings. Don't worry. We're going to stay home. You're going to rest up. So then, fast forward 30 minutes later, I had gone to the store. I'd gotten her some medicines for decongesting because I figured maybe that was the thing that would fix her. And because I had to, do a little bit of work, I gave her an iPad. And once again, people with kids, iPad, good distraction. And she's playing on it. And then I look over, and my daughter's like bouncing up and down and watching this video and singing along. And I'm like, oh, good, the medicine's working. Once again, I'm a trusting person, and I'm not the fastest person in the room. So I see Lena, is the medicine helping? Instantly, just, stops moving, tucks back in. No, I still don't think I should go to school. And I'm like, I have been played. I just got owned by a 4-year-old. So what chance do I have against the rest of the world if my 4-year-old daughter can own me? So rewinding a little bit now that you guys know how susceptible I am to being manipulated, you're probably thinking to yourself, why is this guy up on stage telling me how I'm being manipulated if he can't figure it out himself? The reason is, I have a secret weapon, and it's that tiny, cute person on the bed. This is my daughter, Lena. Normally, I would tell you guys about me, but she's the hero of the story. As you guys know from the previous cautionary tale, she won. So she's obviously the good guy, right? The thing that you have to realize is that children very naturally are social engineers. It's not because of any kind of training or ability. It's just that they don't really have, I like to put it this way, they have a certain moral flexibility. They haven't been manipulated and molded and influenced by society to where they see things as being right or wrong. They just have goals. And so my daughter, at this time 3-year-old, she is a very naturally gifted social engineer. And I'm not saying that as a proud parent. I'm saying that because the number of times she's gotten away with things is kind of ridiculous. And so what I want you guys to focus on is the fact that there are training sources everywhere. And what this talk basically builds on is that I started noticing my daughter doing this, and I realized if I used her, I could create a low-risk training environment. Because if my daughter wins, she gets an extra piece of chocolate or candy or to watch her iPad for 5 more minutes. If an adversary like a con artist or a phishing scam works, I cost my company money or I lose some part of my identity or a ton of other things, monetary loss, all of that. So now you guys are probably still thinking, why does he call it you're always being manipulated or you are always being manipulated? And the simple answer is because you are always being manipulated. I gave this talk a little bit ago at the SE Village at DEF CON. And what was amazing was I'm in the perfect environment because, when you're in Vegas, everything in that city is built to manipulate you. But even here, everything is still built to manipulate you. Think about your interactions with people at work. Think about, just the emails that you receive. Even if they're legitimate, they're still trying to guide you to a purpose. So the good news is you're always being manipulated. The bad news is you're always being manipulated. Some people would argue that it's a difference between manipulation and influence depending on the outcome. I simplify it. Like I said, not the smartest guy. Everything's manipulation. It's just, whether it's training purposes or adversarial. So when I realized this about my daughter, I'm like, here she is at 3 years old. She's already manipulating. She's already, doing these things. She's already starting to develop attacks. And I thought I may have had till she was 5 before I had to worry about this, trust her, let her do things. She's kind of, now I have to start being an authoritarian. I kind of lost a little bit of faith in humanity for 2 reasons. One, because if my daughter can do this with no training, why am I considering paying thousands of dollars to go get trained in this? I should probably be better. And 2, if my 3-year-old daughter can pull scams on me once again, what hope do I have in the real world? I should probably just lock myself in a room and not come out. So moving from there, I remembered something that an instructor of mine had once told me. And I'm paraphrasing a bit, but if you guys stick with me, you'll understand. Every moment in life, good or bad, can teach us something if we're willing. And so it's really a matter of perspective. So yes, my daughter is conning me. Yes, people all around us are conning us and manipulating us, and they all have ulterior motives. But if you change your perspective, some of the basic things that people are actually manipulating us with are kind of cornerstones of civilization. That's why it's so easy for us to get conned. Inherently, we're all nice people. Well, I hope so. Looking at you guys in the room, hoping that's true. We'll talk afterwards if you're not. It's good. So let's see how we can actually build a training program. And the good news, once again, there's tons of sources. So we'll start with the good guys. There's a question mark there, and you'll see why in a minute. We'll start actually on the right side, because that's closest to me, and I'm the guy giving the talk. So you have what we like to call pets. And I will say once again, since we're in an InfoSec and HackerCon, this satisfies the requirement for having at least one cat in the presentation. It's not a cute cat, it's not a meme, but it's a cat. So think about these animals. Dogs, cats, you may have ferrets. I had a ferret at one point. You clean up after these things, you feed them food, and you pet them, and they take over your lives. And we love them for it. You have been manipulated by a small animal. Then you move on to case number 2. Once again, this is my daughter. As you can tell from this picture, I am losing the battle, and she is telling me to go that way, and I can guarantee you guys, after my wife took the picture, I was going that way. Children and friends and family are all great things because, 1, they know us, so they know the ways to get around our defenses. 2, they've kind of weaseled themselves into our lives, and we want to make them happy, which lowers our defenses again. 3, if they win, you haven't really lost that much, so once again, good training environment. And then we go to the far left, which actually, I believe this is Charlotte. This is the Bank of America building in Charlotte. I think the tallest building. It was a really good building, and it fits what I was going for perfectly, so I used it. This is advertising, marketers, all the businesses that want our money for products and goods and services. So the reason why I say good guys is because, depending on how you look at it, those guys, a little shady, maybe. Moving on. Now we've got our good guys. We know how these guys fit into our program. These are the guys who are going to give us training scenarios. If we lose, did I really need to buy that thing? Probably not. Did my daughter need that extra piece of chocolate? Maybe. It depends if she's in a really good mood. Pets, just pet them. You've taken care of them. But we got to remember, we're training for a purpose. We have bad guys. Now, I want to point out, this is the most awesome picture I've ever seen. And when I saw it, it came up in an image search, and I was like, I'm getting this. I don't care if it fits in anywhere. I'll find a way to put it in, and I did. Because how often do you see a pirate hacker with a butter knife attacking a computer? I can tell from the hands in the audience, no one has seen this before. So,
You sure that's not this? This did an entire series.
it didn't say it was him. Actually, hang on. I think I've got in the notes who it was. Let's see. This is Noam Arman. Oh, yeah. So the bad guys are all the things we think about on a day-to-day basis. It's the scammers, the fishers and vishers. It's all the things that we're thinking. I actually include watering hole attacks into the bad guys because they are taking advantage of like a known site. They're taking advantage of something good and injecting something bad into it, taking advantage of trust. So same thing. And once again, advertising. Really and truly advertising. Those guys are right on the fence. Still know how I feel about them. So our adversaries are actually what we're training to fight against. We want to increase our awareness of when things are not quite right to when there may be a little bit of influence so that we can detect it. And really, that's all I'm trying to do. It's not really coming up with a way to counter it, because once you've detected it, they've lost in many ways. And it could even just be, especially in the, with scammers or the phishing stuff, it could just be that moment where you stop and think to yourself, I really shouldn't click on that link. So, once you know, knowing's half the battle. All the children of the 80s, you guys, you know what I'm talking about. Go Joe, right. So that's why we are doing this. We use the good guys to build low impact, low risk environments to then move on to defend against the bad guys. So far, I don't think I've lost anybody. I hope not. I mean, some of us did drink a little too much last night. I'm going to raise my hand because I was. But we had a good time. So let's look at some examples, because how does this apply in real life, and what the heck does the tiny child that I keep talking about have to do with this? Everybody knows the beginning of a good social engineering attack, right? You build trust. If I don't have trust, I don't get anywhere. The good news is my daughter has a ton of trust in me, and I have a ton of trust in her, because I've known her since literally the first moment of her life. This is also a disadvantage, but let's see how she's going to use it, all right? Because we're going to start with our training situation, then I'll show you guys some real-world attack. This is a question I get asked on a daily basis. So she's pre-texted this one a lot. Papa, are you happy with me? Well, most times, yeah. Very happy parent. She seems to be a very happy child, so yeah, we're always happy. She's building trust with the parent, right? Papa, are you happy with me? She's conditioning a response. You guys think about this. It's very sophisticated for a 3-year-old, right? And so my response, unless she has done something to really make me upset, is, well, of course I'm happy with you. Why would I not be happy with you, And then she goes for the tell, and this is where the attack starts. Then I will have chocolate for dinner. No joke. So I'm going to go and give you guys a little background. These are not made up. I actually, when I noticed that she was doing this, I started writing down examples, because how could I not? I'm going to use this as blackmail against her for the rest of her life, or at least, funny stories during Thanksgiving or whatnot. So, she immediately goes from her ask to her tell. She's not subtle. She's not, very little manipulation, but she is totally manipulating my trust. So this leads us to our defenses. Defense number 1, always be cautious. Now, I'm not saying don't trust people. I'm just saying be cautious. Sometimes things seem a little too good to be true. Be cautious. This is good advice in general. I want to say being cautious has kept most of us in this room alive for our entire adult lives. We got very lucky as children. I know I did at several situations, but, we're still all here. We've been cautious. It makes us slow down and think. And this is really like the step. You're going to find out, especially as we get into more advanced things, even things that my daughter is doing and that people around us are doing, there's that, they create that sense of urgency. Dave Kennedy, I think last night during the keynote, talked about that. You want to create that urgency, create pressure. Being cautious slows you down so you don't get sucked into that. Okay? And then we start to evaluate the situation a little better because we have slowed down and we are thinking. And then we go to defense 2, because right now all I've done is slow down, I'm evaluating, and then now I want to trust but verify. Everybody in the room, raise your hands if you've heard this phrase 1,000 times. Yep, that's what I thought. So we want to trust people. It's in our nature. It helped build civilization. We're all in this room right now because a whole bunch of people trusted each other, built a hotel, and before that built a city, and now we're all sitting in the room because you guys trust me. I hope, you're here. Trust is a good thing, but that's why it's the first principle of any attack. You build trust so that you can then manipulate it. So what you want to do is, as everybody knows, verify through an independent source. So for me, regarding my daughter, that's my wife, because she usually knows what's going on in the household. So my daughter will vary her attack somewhat, not just I will have chocolate for dinner, but I already ate my dinner. Can I have some chocolate now? Well, some nights, I don't get home until a little bit later, so I don't know if she's eaten dinner. So if I just trusted her, my daughter would eat nothing but chocolate pretty much every day of her life, or candy. She loves candy now. And so I have to go to my wife and be like, okay, did she eat dinner? Did she eat enough dinner to justify the candy or chocolate? And luckily for me, my wife is usually in the room when my daughter makes this request, because she's not very sophisticated yet, except for the example I gave you guys at the beginning, where she totally played both of us. And my wife will tell me no or yes. So trust but verify, be cautious. Now let's look at how this actually applies to the real world, right? Because you guys are thinking, that's great, you've got a kid, you've been trained. How does this actually apply to me in my daily life? Well, let's take one that we're all familiar with. This is Dan. He's here from IT, and he's here to help. So you're working, you're at your desk, the thing on your desk rings. Once you remember that's a phone, and I probably should pick it up, or what I usually do is just ignore it because no one ever calls me. You pick it up and you answer it, and on the other end is Dan. Well, I say recently, end of last year, my company got acquired by Cisco, so now there's 70,000 people, and I have no idea who works in IT anymore, so Dan could work for IT. Actually, given that percentage, there probably is a guy named Dan who works in IT who may be calling me on that day. Dan's like, hey, I'm here to help. I need you to verify that your computer is actually staying up to date. We saw something weird. We want to make sure it is. I need you to do something for me. Normally, I'm pretty busy, usually filling out bug tickets or some other thing, and I don't like being interrupted when I'm in my zone. So I'll say, okay, yeah, Dan, I know my computer's up to date. I used to be a sysadmin. I've done this before. This is not my first rodeo. And Dan is like, so Dan is built on the trust. He's actually taking advantage of two principles here. He's building on our trust because IT, in theory, they're here to help. And then he's also using kind of the authority of IT. IT, we can make your life miserable. So I want to help Dan. I want my company to be safe. Think about this from the point of somebody who's not in security, not in computers, not familiar with it. They really want to make sure they're not the reason their company gets owned, thanks to all of our training that we've given them. And Dan is going to not be dissuaded by my first approach. Like I've said, okay, my computer's up to date. I know that. I'm really busy. Anyway, we can get through this. And Dan's going to say, excellent. Now he's starting to build again on my trust. He's like, oh, you did the right thing. That's awesome. Now I feel great. He's told me I did something good. And he said, I just need you to verify through this website. You guys know this. And that website, sure, it's going to verify a lot of things. So how do we defend against this? Well, first we slow down. We're cautious. I've never had to verify my updates to the website before. And normally every time I connect to my computer to the network, it does something in the background that I'm pretty sure is it verifying that I'm running some kind of updates. So this sounds shady to me. But you also have a thing that you don't want to be confrontational. Once again, we're all nice people. Well, once again, the rest of the world is nice people. Sometimes we're not, because we kind of know this route. We know how this goes. So you can tell Dan, you can tell people in your company, Dan, that's cool. I'm really busy. Let me call you back, and then I can work through everything. So you haven't been confrontational. You've just admitted that you're busy. I don't know of a single person at a company who's not busy all the time now. And then you say, I'm going to call you back. Well, Dan, if he is legitimate or not, he's probably going to try to give you a phone number. Don't use that phone number. That phone number's bad. Go find the phone number through like a known good site, good source. You probably can ask somebody else in your company. You can ask, ask them first, did you talk to Dan? And if they say yes, then go, okay, I don't need your phone number. But we all know how to do this. You want to verify through an independent source, pretty easy. Once again, this is a pretty simple attack, but Dan is going to take advantage, in most real-world scenarios, take advantage of multiple factors. He's going to create urgency. He's going to, use multiple things. My daughter, not so sophisticated. She's getting there, though. So from here, we kind of have this foundation, right? All of these attacks are going to build on the initial foundation of trust. From trust, we want to create an imbalance. So we look at attack 2. And this is where I really thought that, from a training perspective, my daughter upped her game because she picked up on reciprocity pretty quickly. And so really quickly, reciprocity is that I'm going to give you something so that you want to give me something back. You want to create that balance. And it's instinctive. Once again, we build civilizations because we all want to keep this balance. We all want to be fair. And the people who can take advantage of that can get away with more stuff. Anyone who's in a relationship, you know all about reciprocity. It's built in. So let's take a look at the training scenario, right? Out of the blue, my daughter, I'm not going to lie, this was actually a little bit earlier. She was about 2.5 here. She grabs a vacuum cleaner. To this day, no one in this house knows where that vacuum cleaner came from, including the people who live there, because this was not at our house. And she starts moving it around the floor. It's not on, but she seems, she's making sure she hits all the carpet. We didn't even know that she knew how to do this. We had never seen her do anything like this before. And then she says, Papa, once again, she goes for the weak link. She knows that I'm the weak link. I'm going to give her what she wants. Papa, look how good I'm cleaning. Yeah. So once again, as a parent, you want to reward good behavior. She's not like smashing things and saying, look how good I'm doing. She's cleaning. This is, later on when chores come into play. This is a good first step right here. So, the opening for this attack. She's given the parent something unexpected. Look, I'm cleaning. Yes, you are. That's good. And then she's going to reinforce that, right? look how clean I made everything. Once again, I wrote these all down. This is something my daughter actually did. She's like saying this, of course, I'm upgrading some of the language from, 3-year-old. And she's like, I did a good thing, right? Well, now she's trapped me. I have to admit, yes, you've done a good thing. And it's true, you did do a good thing. And then comes the ask. Since I did a good job, can I have some candy? Once again, there's always that ulterior motive at the end. She has a goal. She will get to the goal. She doesn't care if it's right or wrong. Like all small children, get to the goal. Pets are the same way, except usually with the cat, it's like, look, I'm knocking this glass off of this shelf. I did a good thing, right? Where's my food?
I thought it was more like, hey, minion, feed me. I will
Well,
keep pushing objects until you feed me more.
I'm one of the, I tend to look at the softer side of cats until they put out their claws and they roll over and they're pointy side up. So yes, that's probably what it's more likely, but I was like, oh, look, he's telling me that, I don't know, he didn't like that glass or something, and and his food bowl's empty, so that's probably why he did that, or she did that, depending on your cat. Dogs, they're just there, and they're happy, and you pet them on top of their head, and then they'll look at you, and where's my food? But they're much friendlier about it. So let's look at the defense, right? Because this is going to happen a lot. People are going to create these imbalances. They're going to do it very fast, and we're going to feel the need to kind of balance it out. Defense 1, do I know this person? So I've known you guys for, some of you guys a little bit longer, but let's just take everybody average of the room. You may have seen me walking around, but I have known you guys for, let's say, 30 minutes, maybe, 28-ish. So the question really is, how well do I know this person? You guys know me really well, right? Trust me completely. Yeah, I like the laughter. So the problem with this is that I've known Lena, once again, since the moment of her birth. I trust her a good bit. So how well do I know this person? Really well. Once again, an advantage and a disadvantage for her. But if we think to ourselves about this kind of approach, if it's a stranger, I don't know this person very well. I have no idea what they want. They may be completely honest in their approach. They may not have any ulterior motives. But you have to stop and think about that. You have to be cautious. Trust is the first, pillar of the attack. Being cautious is the first defense for pretty much everything. But then we start asking ourselves, once we're being cautious, how well do I know this person? Well, once you've asked that question, you start coming up with thoughts, right? So then you move on to defense number 2. If I'm being cautious and I'm asking myself, how well do I know this person? You can start to analyze the situation. Okay, they've given me something, and now they're asking for something. Are they asking me for something that's more valuable than what I gave them? Or is there some way that to them could be more valuable than what they gave me? Or does it somehow compromise me? And once again, if this is a real-world attack, they're going to be applying pressure. They're going to be applying urgency, and they're not going to try to give you time to rationalize this out. And that's why this is a great attack, because if I, as an attacker, can create a sense of urgency, and if I can push the right direction, your brain is going to say, cool, I've created a balance and everything seems fair, and then 5 seconds after you walk away and the attacker has vanished into the mist, you're like, I have made a huge mistake. And that's usually the way it works. So let's look at a real-world attack. And once again, I'm going to go back to my favorite, advertising. So you guys may not know this. I am a home brewer, and home brewers go through a lot of things like Star San and PSB, which is a sanitizer and cleaning agent. So one thing that you can use if you don't have any PSB lying around is OxyClean, because it's fairly neutral, but it'll clean out all your equipment. It's great stuff. So let's say that I happen to be, this never happens. I'm never up at 3 a.m. working on something and have the TV on in the background and happen to see the OxyClean commercial. And granted, Billy Mays is not there anymore. I actually like Billy Mays. I thought he was awesome. Thought he was extremely good at what he did. And you got to respect that. So here's how it happens. In the real-world example, you have the opening, right? 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm watching OxyClean. Interesting. And, they're like, okay, we're going to give you this much. Sweet. That sounds good. But wait, there's more. Oh, now I'm interested. There's more. So they're going to give me something that I'm not expecting, right? If you act now, we'll double your order. Well, as a home brewer, I can find a use for about 15 pounds of OxyClean. So this might be a good deal. I wonder what they're going to ask me for that. And then they reinforce it. You won't find a deal this good. Well, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm pretty sure I won't be able to find a deal that good anywhere else, given the time. Yeah. Well, Amazon I think I've heard Amazon before. Like Amazon, it's 24 hours a day, and they if you're Prime, they'll give it to you tomorrow. And then there's the ask at the very end. So you're sitting there, and I'm still not quite sold. Well, 15 pounds of OxyClean, that may make my wife angry. I'll have to brew a lot more beer. That'll make me happy. So it's a really tough decision. And then they say, can you really pass up this great of an offer? Well, I don't know. And then they finish it with act now. Okay. So they've created urgency. They have given me something more, and all they want me to pay is that extra shipping and handling. This is a great deal. I should totally do this. And then brew like 100 pounds of beer. Okay, I think I can do this. So you guys see, it's pretty straightforward, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show you guys, real-world examples that you can see how the training examples fit into it. My daughter gives me something that's pretty obvious. It's going to be a lot more subtle with a real-world attack, but it's essentially the same principles. And so, once again, we slow down, we think about it. How well do I know this person? Well, I know Billy Mays. I know he makes his living off of selling stuff. He's probably really good at selling stuff because he seems like he's doing really well at it. And could I find a deal that good? Maybe, maybe not. With OxyClean now, yeah, pretty sure I could. Anyway, moving on to our last one, which is my favorite, and I've mentioned it a couple of times already. Creating urgency. Now, a lot of you may be thinking to yourself, all right, we've heard about the urgency. We've seen how it's been created. How does a small child create urgency? Well, every parent in the room already knows the answer to this. I'll give you guys a little background before we get into the text on this one, because in my notes, that's actually what I wrote down was, I have no idea what my daughter is saying right now, which you should really not do while in the moment this is happening. That's how I was doing this. Sometimes the scientist part of me takes over when the parent should be taking over. We had just taken my daughter to get her hair cut. She wanted to get her hair cut. My daughter is of the age and loves Disney movies, and so she loves Frozen. Anyone out in the room who has not seen Frozen? Well, I'm not going to go into the story, but, when you've seen it 1,000 times, it loses some of its appeal. After we get done cutting her hair, the way that she had asked, she wanted short hair. And so we got done cutting. And this happens because she asked the lady who had cut her hair, can I get an Elsa braid? Once again, if you haven't seen Frozen, one of the main characters, Queen Elsa, she has a braid that goes down her shoulder and across like this in the front. To do that, you have to have long hair. You guys can kind of see where things went wrong in the picture, right? So she starts crying immediately when we tell her, well, you don't have long hair, we can't give you an Elsa braid. And then she screams, Papa, tears come down her face. And then there was a lot of wailing after that. And as a parent, you learn how to tune these things out, unless they're injured. So what is she doing? She screams, Papa, I'm Papa, I have to do something. She's forcing me into an immediate action. And she did this in a very public place. It's not like you're the only person there in a hair salon for kids. There are a lot of other parents and children around. So you want to make sure that your child is not the one causing the incident, because that'll be talked about by everybody that you'll never see again for years. Okay, then as a parent, I want to comfort her. It's okay, what's the matter? And then she comforts me. Reciprocity. It's okay, Papa. Oh, okay, cool. What can I do for you? And I don't even remember what she asked for. That's one of the bad things, is I was trying to make sure she was quiet. She was like, can you get it for me? And she just pointed. And I handed her like 8 toys in the room because, she seemed calm. Afterwards, I was like, yep, I bet we could have handled that differently. But that's why we train, right? So we can learn. So here's the thing. How do you defend against urgency? Follow the process. I can see some of you out there thinking, what process? You had a screaming child. Glad you asked. Develop a process. Train using the process. Follow the process. This is something we tell our users every day, right? Develop a process, follow the process, train in the process. Lesson number 2. Remember lesson number 1? Always follow the process. The second you deviate from the process, the bad guys win every time. Whether it's the developer who introduces the bug because they didn't follow the process, the person who clicks on the link because they weren't following the process, it's all the same thing. Which takes me to my next point, which is my favorite slide of the entire thing. Because I actually could talk about this from a social engineering point of view for an entire hour. This is, and I know most of us kind of grin and laugh because we would never click on this, but think about the average user in your company, or the people that you know in your life, your friends and family who are not very skilled at computers. And now picture them in an enterprise setting. They've been told attackers are everywhere, one wrong move and the bad guys win, and they're doing something. Let's say that they're doing something that they shouldn't have been doing on their work machine. And this pops up. And they could have been doing something completely legitimate, but most of our users, they probably were not doing something legitimate. They were trying to download like Candy Crush or Minecraft, that one. And so this pops up, and they think to themselves, oh no, I'm the person who caused the company to get owned. And it's brilliantly designed. So I'm going to try to, normally I forgot my stand to do this. Okay, so there's tons of red, and we've been trained since the age of 2 that red means stop and caution. We have painted ourselves into this corner with our trial and training. Then you notice that virus is in capital letters and underlined, and credit card is in capital letters and underlined, and phone numbers are highlighted in yellow. It's brilliantly designed, honestly. Whoever did this should be hired by a marketing firm because they will get more money than the normal marketers will. Because everything is guiding you to immediately click on something, immediately call something, and they've already given you all the things. And then what I really love about this is they don't really give you any details. Your computer may have a virus. Well, yeah, my computer's been on for more than 5 minutes. It may indeed already have a virus on it. It's 2016. Everything else is going off the rails. I'm pretty sure my computer's infected. And then they say possible damage, unknown. Oh, they don't even know what's going on. Maybe if I give them more information, they can help me. And then they reinforce it, right? So they've reinforced it. They've said, we've detected an issue and we can fix it. They've developed reciprocity. They've given me something I wasn't expected. My computer was infected and they've now given me something. If you're once again not someone who's been, we've conditioned ourselves to never fall for these things, right? Once again, think about the normal user. Think about somebody who is not quite comfortable with computers. They're going to be panicked. They're going to feel that urgency, and then they're going to immediately fall for that reciprocity, right? They're going to say, this person can fix it. Oh my God, if they can fix it, then maybe no one at the company finds out my computer was owned. It's human nature, and that's why I love this, because, we can all be forced into this situation if the right pressure is applied. And so then they reinforce it. Click here or call now and we can fix the problem for you. Yeah, so that's the last of the attack examples. Now, I do have to say for this next part, this is actually new. And it was because, once again, when I was at the SE Village, a guy came up to me afterwards and he's like, I really enjoyed your talk, but you didn't take it far enough. And I have to admit, in retrospect, he was probably really good because he totally social engineered me into adding something to my presentation. So watch out for those guys. And what he said was, at the end of the day, you're doing all this training, that's great. He said, you're training, you're looking at these adversaries. He said, but the person that you're training against is yourself. Because we're brilliant at talking ourselves into anything. I mean, once again, we luckily survived our childhood, but we were not bright all the time, were we? So that's where I want to take this next one, and it's this. And I'll give credit. The guy who told me about this, his name is Forrest Monson, and he is out actually studying psychology at the University of California in Santa Cruz. And the good news is, even though we are our own adversaries because we can talk ourselves into it, once we become aware of this, we can become our best allies because we can train in the process. We can start breaking down these things. We can kind of like do it as an internal simulation. We can start questioning why we're doing certain things, and that's good. But remember, we manipulate ourselves every minute of every day because we're always being manipulated. We have certain things in our brain that have conditioned us to have certain responses, and we can't change that, but we can use it. So I've kind of given you guys an outline. I've showed you how I used some examples my daughter gave me, how that made me more aware of real attacks in the world. And you guys may be thinking, okay, well, I go to training, we give our users training like this. What makes your approach different? Well, from a completely unscientific point of view, because I have done 0 case studies and we were dealing with a sample size of 1, this is what I can say, at least for myself. You're training like you're fighting. When you're actually using these real-world examples, you're not talking about the principles, you're not looking at the principles. You are actively engaging in the exact same patterns that the attack will follow. Now, granted, as we talked about in the real-world attack, there are multiple angles, right? There's multiple directions that this come in. There's multiple approaches that they're going to put all together into an actual real-world attack, but you can start to see the pieces of it, and if you can catch one piece, it's going to make the rest of it fall apart. And what I want to point out is, so I don't study Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I do study martial arts, but the guy on the bottom who seems at the disadvantage right now, he's in the guard position, right? Look how calm he is. And the reason why is because he's been there 1,000 times. He's been in this exact situation repeatedly. He is trained for this moment, and he is completely relaxed and comfortable. And that's what we want to get to. We want to get to where we're moving through life and we're not distrustful of people, but we kind of have a sixth sense thing going on all the time, this kind of loop in the back of our head that's telling us, kind of quietly evaluating the situation. And it's difficult at first, but once you start to see it, you can't kind of unsee it. It's just there. And you start to notice these things. And once again, you notice where there's like these benevolent influences and these kind of adversarial manipulations. So once we kind of do that, we've now built a low-risk environment. We know we can use our friends and families. You can or cannot tell your friends and families that you're going to do this. It's more fun to kind of like, occasionally go, got me. And then just walk off without explaining things, but you guys may not be like me. I like, messing with people in my life. And then you want these things to, once again, to mimic the actual attacks, because if it doesn't, you're not really training for the thing that you're going to be fighting against. And then finally, you want to reward your training partners. Now, I know that I have stood up here and told you guys all the things that I do, using my daughter, and the fact you guys probably thinking that dude never gives his kid any candy or chocolates at all. And that's not true. I do. In fact, she had just done something, and we were in a mall, and she had kind of like tricked me. And the way that she had tricked me was she had done something. I can't remember what this one was. It's one of the ones I didn't write down. And I actually took a step before I thought about what she had asked. And I went, oh, yeah, she totally won. So I was like, all right, Lena, we're going to go get a cookie. And then she forgot whatever she had been asking about because, alternate strategy, cookies. And the other thing that I do is I actually, much to my wife's dismay, I am encouraging her to do these things. Now, I am explaining, sometimes this is bad. Once you kind of understand good and evil, or I guess not evil, good and bad. Let's simplify it. Legal and illegal. There we go. Hopefully she will, but I'm encouraging her. And obviously that's working because, let's go back to the cautionary tale at the beginning. My 4-year-old completely played me. Outright won. There was no I recognized it. It was no, she won, and she knew she had won. And that's why she was watching her iPad and dancing around in a chair 30 minutes later, because she had won. But that's cool. We've rewarded our training partners. We're training like we're fighting. Let's remember what we're fighting against, right? We're fighting against a guy with a keyboard, 3 monitors, a full tactical hoodie, and a laptop. You do not want to mess with this guy. I found this actually the same place I found the pirate picture, and I was like, I have to add that in. It's a tactical hoodie. We don't ever see tactical hoodies. So remember what you're training for. Remember what you're training against. It's not this guy. It's the people who have spent millions and lots of hours perfecting their attacks, perfecting their approaches, and they are training all the time, and they're revamping all the time. In the software industry, they call that being agile, in case you guys haven't heard that term yet. So you are being tested, even if you're not in Vegas, even if you're not in a place that's surrounded by things trying to sell you all the time. I mean, you can take a walk around the hotel and see all the ways that they're trying to get you to either sign up for a program or, become a Scientologist over in the other room. That's worked out so beautifully. I cannot believe that happened. And just remember, they're going to keep building up. They're going to keep constant pressure. They are well-funded and researched. And they're going to be subtle. And when I say well-funded and researched, I'm not just talking about the criminals. Let's return to my favorite, the advertisers. Those guys, like I said, they kind of fit both sides. And I know we have to advertise. We have to get our word out. We sell our products. But you guys know when you see something that's kind of shady in advertising. We all know it. So, I give those guys hell because don't encourage them. They're making plenty of money on their own. Now, rewinding a bit to how we help our training partners. In the case of pets, pat them on their head. Tell them they've been really good. They're going to continue to love you except for cats. They're going to knock your stuff off of shelves. But we love them anyway. And with that, are there any questions? Yes, sir.
I sat patiently through your talk. Did I do a good job?
You did an awesome job. And I have to say, you guys did let me stand up on stage for, 38 minutes of actual talking. And as a proud parent, I got to talk about my daughter for that long. So I win. No, just kidding. I hope you guys did learn something. Yeah, yeah. That's his second question. Is there any chocolate?
Can I have a cookie?
I can probably find a cookie somewhere. I wouldn't trust it. It's going to be a found cookie. You probably don't want a found cookie. We can go grab a beer for sure.